The first time I saw her outside the house, she was sitting near the back of a small café that smelled faintly of paper and cinnamon. A weekday morning, the kind that feels suspended between errands and quiet regrets. I was supposed to just grab a coffee before class, but she was there, reading, her thumb tracing the edge of a page like she was afraid to turn it. I knew her. Everyone on our street did. Mrs. Vance, the neighbor's mom. She looked up when the bell above the door rang, not really seeing me at first. Then recognition flickered. "You live next door, don't you?" she said, her voice low, steady. I nodded. "Yeah, Ben. Right." She smiled, folding her napkin in half, then again into a smaller, careful square. "Your mom's garden, always perfect." I wanted to tell her my mom hadn't tended that garden in months. She'd been sick, but the words stopped somewhere in my throat. Instead, I said, "You come here often?" and immediately regretted how much that sounded like the wrong kind of question. She laughed, quietly, like she didn't want to disturb anyone else. "Just when the house feels too empty." Something about that line sat with me. I took the seat across from her before I could overthink it. We talked about nothing. Books neither of us had finished. How the coffee here was too bitter, but somehow right for mornings like this. She had this way of looking at things, slow, deliberate, like she was cataloging the smallest details before deciding how to feel about them. When she glanced at my hands, I caught myself tapping the mug. I stopped. She noticed, smiled again. I don't remember leaving that cafe. Only that she said, "See you around," in a tone that sounded more like "Please don't make this a habit." A week passed before I saw her again. Late afternoon. She was in her driveway, struggling with a box that looked heavier than she'd admit. I offered to help, and she hesitated just long enough for me to think she might refuse. Then she stepped back, letting me take it. Inside her house, the air smelled faintly of lemon and rain. She moved carefully, tucking hair behind her ear, keeping a safe distance, or trying to. "Thanks," she said, after I set the box down. You can leave it there." I nodded, but didn't move. The sound of the rain on the porch roof filled the space between us. She looked toward the window, not at me. Her hand rested on the back of a chair, the veins faintly visible, tense. "Your son around?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She shook her head. "Not this weekend." Then, after a long pause, "Ben, maybe don't tell anyone you were here, okay?" I thought she was joking at first, but she wasn't smiling. "Yeah, sure." Something about the way she said it, soft, but final, left a weight in the air. Like we'd just agreed to something neither of us could explain. When I got home, I kept replaying that moment. Her eyes when she said, "Don't tell anyone." The silence that followed. The way her fingers had gripped the chair, as if she needed to hold on to something. That night, I opened my phone twice. Typed her name. Deleted it. It's strange how one sentence, spoken quietly in a half-lit room, can echo longer than anything that came before it. And even now, sometimes, I still hear her voice. Low, certain, every time I close my eyes. "Don't tell anyone you were here." It rained again the next weekend. The kind of steady, slow rain that softens everything it touches. I was on the porch, pretending to study, when I saw her through the glass, standing in her kitchen window, wiping it down with a towel, even though it didn't really need cleaning. I don't know why I went over. Maybe it was because I hadn't stopped thinking about the last time. That look, that line. Or maybe because her driveway light was on in the middle of the day, and I told myself it was a good enough excuse. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, but not upset. Just guarded. "Ben," she said, like she hadn't expected to say my name aloud again. "Hey, I saw your light on. Thought maybe." She glanced behind her, as if checking something. "It's fine. Just forgot to turn it off." I almost left. I should have. But she noticed my jacket was soaked and sighed. "Come in. You'll catch a cold standing there." Her living room was warmer than I remembered. A low lamp lit the corner near the couch, and a faint scent of chamomile drifted from the kitchen. She poured tea, one cup, then hesitated and poured another. We sat opposite each other. The steam curled between us, soft and slow. After a few minutes, she said, almost to herself, "You know, when I was your age, I used to think 30 was old." "And now?" I asked. "Now 40 doesn't feel like enough time to figure anything out." She smiled faintly, then added, "My son thinks I have it all together." I laughed quietly. "He probably learned that from you." She looked down, stirring her tea though nothing needed stirring. "You're kind," she said. You always were. Something in her voice carried weight. Not flirtation, not affection. Just honesty. A kind of tired truth she hadn't meant to share. I wanted to ask more. About the divorce I'd overheard my mom mention. About whether the house felt too big now. But I didn't. Instead, I said the first thing that came to mind. Have you ever missed it? Miss what? Having someone around. She didn't answer right away. The clock on the wall ticked a few beats too loud. Finally, she said, sometimes. But mostly I miss who I thought I was back then. I looked at her hands, the way her thumb pressed against the cup's rim, the faint tremor before she set it down. Something inside me tightened. Not in a romantic way. Exactly. More like standing too close to something fragile and wanting not to break it. When I got up to leave, she walked me to the door. The rain had slowed, the air sharp and quiet. Thank you, she said, for keeping me company. Her hand brushed my sleeve as she opened the door. Just a small, accidental touch, but it lingered longer than it should have. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. I hadn't planned to see her again that soon. But life, or maybe the small gravity between us, didn't care much for plans. It happened on a Wednesday, late afternoon. I was walking home from class, earbuds in, when I saw her by the grocery store parking lot, leaning over her car hood. Steam rose faintly from under it. She looked frustrated, hair caught in the wind. I pulled the earbuds out. Need help? She turned, startled, then softened. Ben. Oh, it's nothing. Just overheated, I think. I peered inside, pretending to know what I was looking at. You want me to call someone? She exhaled. No. It'll cool down. I just needed milk and thought I could make it back. It was such a small, ordinary problem. But something in her voice, thin, a little weary, made me stay. I'll wait with you, I said. She didn't argue. We stood there, beside her car, while the wind carried the faint sound of traffic and the smell of rain again. It always seemed to rain near her. Back at her house, I carried the milk inside. It was late, the kitchen dim, her hair slightly damp from the walk. She pulled out 2 mugs without asking this time. You must think I'm helpless, she said, half smiling. I don't, I said. I just think no one should have to drink tea alone. Her eyes lifted, searching mine, as if deciding whether to let the words land. For a second, it felt like she might say something. Maybe the thing we were both quietly circling around. But then, a sound. A knock. Her son's voice fainted through the door. Mom? You home? She froze. The quiet between us went heavy. I could feel her heartbeat in the air, quick and uneven. Go, she whispered. Through the side door. I hesitated, confused. Ben, please. So I went. The sound of my name still in her mouth as I stepped into the rain-soaked yard. Her voice followed faintly, steadying itself before opening the door for her son. I waited until the voices faded before leaving the alley behind her house. My hands were shaking, though I couldn't say why. That night, she texted. Sorry. He wasn't supposed to come home early. Then, before I could reply, thank you for earlier. I stared at the words for a long time. The blinking cursor under my thumb felt louder than the rain outside. I typed anytime. Deleted it. Typed again. I didn't mind. Deleted that too. In the end, I just sent, okay. 2 days later, I saw her again. In the same cafe where it all began. She looked tired but smiled when she saw me. I'm sorry about the other night, she said. It's fine, I said quickly. Too quickly. Her hand brushed mine when she passed the sugar. You shouldn't have to hide. Neither should you, I whispered. For a second, the air changed. Warm, fragile, waiting. Her eyes flicked to my lips, then away. She exhaled. We should stop. But she didn't move. And in that half-second, before she looked away, before the world came back, it felt like the distance between us was smaller than breath. She'd stopped coming to the cafe. For almost 2 weeks, the chair she always chose by the window stayed empty. The light there changed with the hour, morning gold, late gray, but never touched anyone the same way again. I told myself I wouldn't notice, that I didn't need to. Then one evening, walking back from the bus stop, I saw her again, sitting alone on the bench outside her house, a coat pulled tight around her, watching the street like she was waiting for something to pass. Or maybe for something not to. I slowed, unsure whether to say anything. But she saw me first. Out late, she said, voice softer than the night air. Missed the earlier bus, I lied. She smiled faintly, patting the spot beside her. I sat down, leaving just enough space between us to feel like restraint. For a while, neither of us spoke. The streetlight buzzed above, the kind of sound you don't notice until silence points it out. Finally, she said, "You've been avoiding me." I blinked. I thought you were avoiding me. That made her laugh, quietly, without joy. Guess we're both cowards then. Her hands were folded in her lap, fingers tracing the edge of a thin gold ring. Not a wedding band, just something she kept. "He came by," she said suddenly. "Who?" "My ex." She didn't look at me. "Just to drop off some things. Old photos. He said he's seeing someone now." Something sharp twisted in my chest. Not quite jealousy, not quite right to feel it. But it was there. "I'm sorry," I managed. She shook her head. "Don't be. It's just strange, I guess, to realize how easily people move on." I wanted to tell her she wasn't easy to move on from. That even now, when she looked tired and small under that streetlight, she still had this quiet pull, the kind that stays under your skin. "Instead," I said, "you deserve someone who doesn't." She turned to me then. Really looked. The kind of look that asks something you can't answer. "Ben," her voice wavered. "This, whatever this is, it's not fair to you." "Maybe I get to decide that," I said. Her breath caught, and for a second I thought she might actually let it happen. The thing both of us had been circling for weeks. The air between us felt charged, trembling, like the split second before thunder. "I think about you," I said before I could stop myself. "More than I should." Her eyes closed. A small shake of her head. "Don't. I can't help it." She looked at me again then. Really looked, and the distance disappeared for one long, impossible heartbeat. But she didn't move closer. She just whispered, "You shouldn't be here," even as her hand brushed mine. And I didn't know if she meant that night, or in her life at all. Either way, I didn't have an answer. It started with silence. No text. No wave through the window. No sign of her car in the driveway. Just that uneasy stillness that feels heavier than noise. At first, I told myself she was busy, errands, family, something. But by the third day, when her porch light stayed off and her mailbox overflowed, I knew it wasn't just that. I passed her house twice that week, both times pretending I wasn't looking. The curtains were drawn. No teacups on the counter. No faint hum of a TV behind the glass. It felt wrong, not like rejection, but like absence. By Friday, I saw her son instead. He was outside, locking the car, phone tucked between shoulder and cheek. "Hey, Ben," he said when he noticed me. "Haven't seen you around." I nodded, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, I've been busy with school." He shrugged. "Mom's visiting her sister for a while. I need a break, I guess." That word, break, hung in the air too long. He waved and drove off. I stood there, still hearing her voice in my head. "You shouldn't be here." She was gone for almost 2 weeks. In that time, everything felt slightly off. My coffee was too bitter, my phone too quiet. I walked past that cafe every day, but couldn't bring myself to sit down. When she finally came back, I saw her by accident. A Saturday morning. She was carrying groceries, hair tied up, sunglasses on even though it was cloudy. She saw me across the street, froze for half a second, then smiled like it was automatic. "Hey," she said. "Hey." The word felt small, brittle. I wanted to ask where she'd been, but something in her face said not to. "I needed to clear my head," she said finally. "Things got complicated." I nodded, pretending to understand. "Did it help?" She hesitated. "I thought it would." Then, quieter. "You shouldn't wait for me, Ben. I'm not someone who stays." I wanted to tell her I wasn't waiting, that I just wanted to see her, hear her voice, know she was okay. But I couldn't find the words that didn't sound like confession. So I just said, "I didn't plan to." She smiled at that, though her eyes didn't. "Good." We stood there a moment longer, the air thick with everything unsaid. Then she shifted her bag higher and said, "Take care of yourself, okay?" That was it. No touch. No pause. Just distance, redrawn. That night, I typed a message. "You don't have to stay away. I just miss talking to you." I stared at it until the screen dimmed, then locked my phone without sending. Outside, her window light blinked off, and I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was late when I saw her again, the kind of late where even the streetlights looked tired. I'd gone out just to clear my head, walking aimlessly, hood up, hands in my pockets. When I passed her house, the porch light was on, the same soft amber glow I'd gotten used to missing. She was sitting on the steps, wrapped in an old sweater, hair loose. A mug beside her. Steam is still rising. For a moment, I thought about walking past, pretending not to see her, pretending I'd finally learned how to stop. But then she said quietly, "You're out late again." I turned. "Could say the same about you." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Couldn't sleep." "Me neither." Something in that felt too honest. I sat on the bottom step, a respectful distance away. The night hummed with the low buzz of crickets and the faint sound of a television somewhere far off. Neither of us said anything for a while. The silence wasn't awkward anymore, just heavy with all the words we'd never used. She was the one who broke it. "I read somewhere," she began, "that every time you think of someone you're not supposed to, it leaves a small mark on your heart." I looked up. "Then I'm probably covered in them." That made her laugh, soft and short. "Ben." She hesitated, her hand tightening around the mug. "I don't know what this is anymore." "I do," I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was trying to find something she already knew the answer to. "And what is it?" I opened my mouth, but the words tangled on the way out. "It's the only thing that's felt real in a long time." Her breath caught, just slightly. Then she whispered, "You make it sound simple." "It isn't," I said. "That's the point." She set the mug down beside her. The steam had faded. "You're young, Ben. You'll forget about me. You'll find someone you can actually tell people about." "Maybe," I said quietly. "But I don't want to forget you yet." The porch light flickered once, throwing her face in and out of shadow. For a second, she looked like the woman from that cafe again. Calm, distant, not quite letting the world in. Then her expression softened. "You shouldn't have come tonight," she said. "I know." She reached out then, not quite a touch, more like the thought of one. Her fingers hovered just above mine, trembling, before finally resting against my hand. It was the smallest gesture, but it carried every word we hadn't said. She looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "Okay." I nodded, even though I didn't know what she meant. Maybe it was goodbye. Maybe it was permission. Maybe it was both. Either way, it was enough. It's been almost a year since that night on her doorstep. Seasons came and went quietly, the way they do when life stops needing to announce itself. I finished school, started a job in town, moved into a small place of my own, close enough to still walk past her street when I wanted to, far enough to pretend it was coincidence. But I still see her. Not every day, not in the same way, just enough. Sometimes in the morning, around 8:47, the exact minute the bus used to roll past her house, I'll catch her walking her dog, hair tied up, coffee in hand. We nod. Sometimes I smile. Sometimes we talk. Sometimes not. There's no pattern to it anymore, and somehow that makes it feel more real. She invited me over once a few months back. Nothing special. She said she'd made too much soup. The house was the same, but not quite. Fewer photos on the shelves, lighter curtains, a new mug on the table. She handed me tea. Chamomile, as always. I still took my coffee black. We talked about ordinary things. Work, the neighbor's new fence, her son's new apartment. It wasn't awkward, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes from knowing too much about someone to need explanations. When I stood to leave, she touched my arm. "I'm glad you came," she said. And for a second, everything felt like it used to. The soft hum of the clock, the faint scent of lemon in the air, her thumb resting against the edge of her cup. But this time, it didn't ache. It just was. Now, when it rains, and it always seems to, at least here, I find myself thinking about that bench outside her house. The one where we first told the truth halfway, where the air between us buzzed with everything we couldn't name. It's still there, faded a little, wood splintered along the edge. Sometimes I sit there after work, sip coffee that's gone cold, and watch her porch light blink on across the street. She doesn't invite me in anymore. She doesn't have to. We both know what was said and what wasn't, what it meant and what it couldn't be. But we're okay. We made it through whatever that was, something tender, temporary, and quietly permanent all at once. I think that's love too. Not the kind that burns, but the kind that lingers, gentle as breath, soft as memory. Last week, she waved at me from across the street. It was early, sun low, her mug in hand. I raised mine back. Neither of us said anything. We didn't need to. Some mornings still feel like the first one. The quiet cafe, the folded napkin, her half smile when she said my name. Only now, it doesn't keep me awake at night. It just reminds me I was once seen. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, Real love stories do you want to hear next?